And we had a question. Would you take one question from one of our
Sure.
listeners?
Absolutely.
This one comes from Dan Whalen on Instagram. He says, as a working dad, there are so many things on my plate. Our phones connect us to all these commitments,
Hmm.
making them easier to access, but force us to multitask and split our attention. My question is, how does Nia remove things from his plate? What do his priorities look like? And how does that help him be a better dad?
Yeah. So I think that the tool that will change your life, if this is something you struggle with, is to use a schedule maker tool. I used to use Google Calendar, and people told me it was too complicated, and so I actually built my own tool. I'll give you a link to the show notes for this tool. The idea here is that we want to take our average week, and we want to schedule our entire week. And I'm talking about time for the shower, time for lunch, time to meal prep, time to do all the things you have to do. I want you to put those on your calendar. This entire exercise, it sounds like it's onerous. It's like about maybe 30, 45 minutes to do the first time. And what you're doing when you do this, you're giving yourself the gift of knowing what is traction and what is distraction for every minute of the day. Because now you can look at your calendar, and if something pops up and demands your attention, you can look at that calendar and say, okay, is this what I plan to do? Therefore, it is traction, or is it a distraction? Now, it doesn't mean that if an emergency comes up, you won't handle it, right? But what it does mean is that now, for the first time, you can do something about the distractions that keep coming up. You know, there's that saying that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. How many of us get distracted by the same thing day after day after day, and we don't fix the problem? Because there's only three sources of distraction: an internal trigger, an external trigger, or a planning problem. And so by looking at our calendars and understanding, okay, I got distracted here because of that and this, we can start doing something about it. Becoming indistractable is about this iterative process to help us make sure we can live with personal integrity. And that means we've got to start planning out our day in advance so we can tell the difference between traction and distraction.
That's really good. A lot of our guests on the show have said the same thing. I know Jesse Itzler walks around with a giant calendar. He's got his whole year planned out, and this must be the reason. He's like, I know what I have to do, and if I
Yeah,
don't, trouble
it's
awaits. So
it's imperative. You can't call something a distraction unless you know what it distracted you from.